I can't meet a girl, and she's like, I'm your soulmate. I'm like, you're what's left, you know? What took you so long to get here? Where were you, other soulmate? Why is my soulmate used? Why do I have a used-ass soulmate? I got a divorced woman with kids, you know? Where am I, Spokane? That's like going to a restaurant and ordering a steak and the server bringing it over and it's half-eaten, well done. You're like, the f***'s up with this steak? You're like, sorry, man. Somebody else thought they wanted it. Recycle soulmates? You want me to add that? You guys are just writing my act for me? It's discounted. Getting tags in here. It's discounted. The step steak was cheaper. It's cheaper because the ex-husband's paying for half of it, so... Am I? No, because I've never been married.
You said used.
Yeah.
But you meant married?
No, a used soulmate, implying that she was married before I met her. Any other questions?
What makes you then?
I'm the one delivering the joke. That's what that makes me. Makes me that.
Good morning. It's Friday, Gutter Medicine Friday, June the 21st, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and gutter medicine. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
We're living in a country that's the finest place on earth, but some folks don't appreciate this land that gave them birth. I hear that up in Washington they're having an awful fuss, 'cause communists and spies are making monkeys out of us. The bureaus and departments have been busy night and day. They're figuring out just how we gave our secrets all away. And Congress has appointed a committee, so they said, to find out who's American and who's a low-down red. They called him up to Washington to speak for Uncle Sam. But when they asked them what they are, they shut up like a clam. I wish they'd take and put me on the witness stand today. I'd shout so loud old Stalin could hear me all the way. I'm no communist, I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business and let me run my own. Our government is bigger than it ever was today. The more they hire to work for it, the more they have to pay. Our public servants should be proud and honest, you would think, instead of taking bribes and dressing up their wives and men. The taxes keep on going up, of that there is no doubt, but still they just can't take it in as fast as they dish it out. Our national debt is monster size and growing every day. Our children's children still unborn are gonna have to pay. Our dollar used to be the soundest money on this earth, but now $2 won't even buy one good dollar's worth. Unless we stop inflation and take care of what we've got, the communists may win the fight and never fire a shot. Oh, I'm no communist, I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business and let me run my own.
Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney with the headlines.
Again, everybody, I'll see you tonight on Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street. Let me send it right over to Barney and Company. Stu, take it away.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. There has been a spike in migrant crime. It is becoming a political issue. The latest outrage. 2 Venezuelan migrants arrested for the strangulation murder of a 12-year-old girl in Texas. One had been released into this country because he claimed he feared for his life back home. This follows an illegal from Ecuador arrested in New York for the rape of a 13-year-old girl in a public park, and a migrant from El Salvador arrested for the murder of a mother of 5 in Maryland. In his 2016 campaign, Trump played up the killing of Kate Steinle in San Francisco by an illegal migrant. He's doing the same thing now with migrant crime. To the markets, fairly quiet for stocks. Could be the summer doldrums, but you never know how things are going to close out this afternoon. Dow's off 9, Nasdaq up 4. No big price movement. Bitcoin down to $63,000 a coin as of this morning. And the 10-year Treasury, the yield is just below 4.25%. Actually, it's 4.22. The 2-year hovering around 4.70. It's right at 4.70. Oil, $81 per barrel as we speak. Yes, it is. Honestly, it's $81. Gasoline, no change there for regular, $3.45. Diesel, no change, $3.80. All right, politics. Donald Trump is raising a lot more money than President Biden. $141 million in May compared to $85 million for Biden. Trump pulled in $53 million just in the first hour after New York's guilty verdicts. He's raising most of his money from small donations. Biden is tapping Hollywood and the billionaire class. Preparations for next week's CNN presidential debate are in full swing, at least for the president. He's holed up at Camp David doing mock debates. That's not Trump style. He'll rally in Philly tomorrow. On the show today, more decisions from the Supreme Court coming after 10 o'clock Eastern today. What we're all waiting for is the decision on presidential immunity. Whichever way that goes, Trump's court dates and the election will be affected. It's Friday, June 21st, 2024. Varney and Company in a very hot New York City is about to begin.
And that was Stuart Varney with the headlines, Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little Mafia action.
I lent some money to some guy when I was in prison. When you lend money in prison, you don't expect to get it back. I did the guy a favor. He was a tattoo artist in prison. He claimed he was. So he kept coming to me, Michael, I don't have the money. I said, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's a gift from me. No problem. He said, well, I want to do something for you. I said, there's nothing you can do for me in here. He says, let me give you a tattoo. I said, I don't have tattoos. I'm not into that. This was back, in the 80s. So he bugged me so much. I said, okay, give me a tattoo of a heart with my wife's name on it. I love the woman, right? So he gives me this tattoo in prison. You're not allowed to do that. I had to, sneak. Otherwise you get thrown in a hole. And it wasn't a good tattoo. Trust me. So I went to Bowden and I said, Bowden, what can you do with this? And he fixed it up and he made it beautiful. So my wife loves me again for having a great tattoo. Please understand this. This could be Donald Trump. It could be your grandfather. It could be a Democrat. It could be anybody. It could be the man on the moon. Whenever one political party starts to weaponize either the Department of Justice or law enforcement or prosecution agents to go against their opposition, and they have done that with Trump, it's very dangerous. It's no good, whether it be Donald Trump or anyone else. What's happening to Donald Trump is unprecedented in the 200-plus history of the United States with every single president. And it's happening, and it's dangerous, and we can't allow that to happen. That whole case in Georgia might fall apart. These people, they just don't care anymore. They just abuse their authority so out there. They think they're never going to get caught. They think that they're shielded by it. They think that there's one set of rules for them and one set of rules for everybody else.
Imprisoned Gambino family boss John Gotti was being visited by his daughter and one of his brothers. Gotti was reviewing an indictment that his son John Gotti Jr. was named in. When looking down the list of his son's co-defendants, Gotti was shocked by one of the nicknames that he sees. It was then that the Dapper Don went on one of his famous rants. This is stupidity down the line. I can't even identify two people in the indictment. The Sea Monster, Sigmund the Sea Monster. I'm not away 100 years. I'm only away 7 years. Where do these creatures emerge from? Sigmund the Sea Monster, Tony the One-Handed Leprechaun, Philly Jump Over the Fence. Sigmund the Sea Monster was in fact Stephen Sergio. Gotti made up the other two names to emphasize his point in a rather comedic manner.
The guys came over here, originally they started to pray on their own in their neighborhoods. They were, shaking down store owners and doing the things that, we did way back then. But, the mob wasn't the mafia back then. They were just a group of gang guys that came over from Italy. They weren't really organized. They were clannish, they got together, but there wasn't an organization. You couldn't really call it Cosa Nostra or Mafia at that point in time. Just a bunch of guys, trying to make a living the way they knew how, which was criminally. But, they started to dress right. I think you got to go back to Al Capone. I mean, he was the guy that, started wearing the fedoras and the suits and, started becoming well-dressed.
$625K for the track plus all that land? That's it?
What was the zoning restrictions? Well, lucky we got a buyer at all.
Here's what I propose. Tony gets 150. 25% comes from you. The other 75% of that comes from Hesh.
Jesus Christ, that's like 40 grand. You gotta be fucking kidding me, John.
Am I smiling?
You got some balls, kid. I'll give you that much. You'll give me what I tell you to give me.
Oh, Tony. Come on, take it easy. Take it easy.
Fuck that. This ain't the 70s. And I'm not a kid. Relax, it's an expression. Well, here's another expression. You got 5 days to give me my money. Come on. That was out of line.
Billy, he's a boss.
Jersey? Come on, huh?
And that was the Mafia action. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Patriotic Shorts.
Backseater yells, Migs. I said, where? 12 o'clock. I said, those are Sam's. I've got them. And so I had two Sam's going up straight in front of us. My number 4 guy, high test 4, saved my life. He says, high test lead, take it down. The left rear view mirror, when I looked at it, was full of Sam. The Sam was so close to us, I could see the canards, the guiding fins on the sand moving to guide towards us. I'll never forget that Sam. And there wasn't any take it down to it. It was there. And so I just pulled up and it went off right here. The frag pattern on a Sam was built to shoot up at B-52s. So the frag pattern went down and away from me, so we didn't get any damage. However, it went off so close that it rolled the airplane. We had 14 SAMs fired at us in 15 minutes. Only one airplane got damaged.
Great story.
She had taken a job at the Pioneer Parachute Company to help with the war effort. It was the summer of 1942, and factories were desperate for labor to make munitions and supplies of war. Her name was Estella Hillman. And just a year earlier, she had sent her only son, Robert, off to basic training to become a paratrooper with the legendary 101st Airborne. Robert would spend much of the war training for the D-Day invasion of June 6, 1944, where he would be among the first to land behind enemy lines as part of the pre-dawn invasion. Mother and son exchanged frequent letters, Estella fretting about typical motherly concerns, and Robert delighting in her work to support the boys abroad. Their reunion in June of 1945 was a joyous and tearful one. I knew I would jump safely, said Robert, his arms enveloping her in a hug. Why, said his delighted but quizzical mother. Because I saw your initials on my chute, he told his stunned mother as he handed her a tattered section of the parachute with her initials on it.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of motivation.
Destroyed when I'm gone. My goal now, we learn, we earn, we pass it on. We should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. I think it's important that people find something that gives their life a sense of meaning and value that drives them, that becomes their magnificent obsession. Because we live in a world where we're told more about our limitations rather than our potential, We go to our graves never knowing who we really are.
How do we develop a sense of belief? What I'm hearing you say is belief is one of the most important things we can have in ourselves.
It is major. It's an ongoing process. I encourage people to read at a minimum of 30 to 40 pages of something positive every day to program your mind. And all of us can do that. We can go to the library and check out books. When I think about Og Mandino, who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, he was on the verge of committing suicide. Went to the library, read the book Think and Grow Rich, and his life turned around. Your mindset, your diet, and positive relationships, giving yourself a healing, nurturing environment strengthens your immune system and allows you to stay here longer and do your great work. So you have to program yourself or your mind will be programmed. In order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. You've got to become a risk taker. This God said, if you're not willing to risk, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't become your best. And if you can't become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? When you find something that you love, you will study it. Something that you love that becomes not just confident, but you will become competent on that. I pour myself into it. I lose myself into it because it's not about me, it's about the audience. Ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong and don't stop until you get it. I tell people, you're going to face tough times, but I affirm, no matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. You don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. Develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. I said, live a life of contribution. Decide that you are going to live your life in such a way, as Horaceman said, you should be ashamed to die when you made a major contribution to humankind. And I want to find other people who have that kind of magnificent obsession, who have that kind of conviction about their lives, who want to make that kind of mark in their lives. Can I, with the time that I have left, amplify and train and multiply voices of hope and create a better world? We'll have enough time to do that. And we all have an expiration date. So live your life from a place of love.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Daily Stoic.
Education is freedom. What is the fruit of these teachings? Only the most beautiful and proper harvest of the truly educated, tranquility, fearlessness, and freedom. We should not trust the masses who say only the free can be educated, but rather the lovers of wisdom who say that only the educated are free. Epictetus, Discourses, 2.1.21 through 23a. Why did you pick up this audiobook? Why pick up any book? Not to seem smarter, not to pass time on the plane, not to hear what you want to hear. There are plenty of easier choices than reading or listening to a book. No, you picked up this audiobook because you are learning how to live, because you want to be freer, fear less, and achieve a state of peace. Education, reading and meditating on the wisdom of great minds, is not to be done for its own sake. It has a purpose. Remember that imperative on the days you start to feel distracted, when watching television or having a snack seems like a better use of your time than reading or studying philosophy. Knowledge, self-knowledge in particular, is freedom. Be ruthless to the things that...
And that was the Daily Stoic for June the 21st by Ryan Holiday. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Bishop Robert Barron.
If we're just talking to God in an undifferentiated way, then we're not praying in a manner different than the way a Jew or a Muslim or a general monotheist would pray. What's the Christian difference? The Christian difference is that the one God who's displayed himself now as Father, Son, and Spirit, we pray to the Father as though the Son has his arm around our shoulder, because the Father sent the Son into our own humanity, into our sin and death. So the Son's gone all the way out. So the Son now helps us to pray to the Father. Now, where's the Holy Spirit come in? The Holy Spirit is the love that connects the Father and the Son. In fact, now in this prayer, the Son's arm around my shoulder, directed to the Father, is a prayer in the Holy Spirit. I've been drawn into the dynamics of the love between the Father and the Son. God has opened up the Trinitarian life and now includes us in it.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. The Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, "It took centuries of intellectual philosophical development to achieve political freedom. It was a long struggle stretching from Aristotle to John Locke to the Founding Fathers. The system they established was not based on unlimited majority rule, but on its opposite, on individual rights, which were not to be alienated by majority vote or minority plotting. The individual was not left at the mercy of his neighbors or his leaders. The constitutional system of checks and balances was scientifically devised to protect him from both. This was the great American achievement," unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the 33 strategies of war.
From The Complete Upmanship by Stephen Potter. When to give advice. In my own view, but compare Motherwell, there is only one correct time when the gamesman can give advice, and that is when the gamesman has achieved a useful, though not necessarily a winning, lead. Say 3 up and 9 to play at golf, or in billiards 65 to his opponent's 30. Most of the accepted methods are effective, e.g. in billiards, the old phrase serves. It runs like this. Gamesman: "Look, may I say something?" Layman: "What?" Gamesman: "Take it easy." Layman: "What do you mean?" Gamesman: "I mean, you know how to make the strokes, but you're stretching yourself on the rack all the time. Look, walk up to the ball, look at the line, and make your stroke. Comfortable. Easy. It's as simple as that." In other words, the advice must be vague, to make certain it is not helpful. But in general, if properly managed, the mere giving of advice is sufficient to place the gamesman in a practically invincible position.
And that was the 33 strategies of war. Back in a minute. Thank you. If you're a Democrat, you should vote Republican because psychological internalization is one of the central topological shifts of violence in modernity. Violence occurs in the form of a conflict within the psyche. Destructive tensions are born internally rather than discharged externally. The front is no longer located outside the ego, but within it. Civilization, therefore, obtains mastery over the individual's dangerous desire for aggression by weakening and disarming it, and by setting up an agency within him to watch over it like a garrison in a conquered city. Back in a minute. Thank you. So I want to remind everybody, the next time that you go to work and somebody is saying, "Hey, soak the rich. Hey, let's tax the rich. Why aren't we? There's higher taxes on the rich." One of the ways that you can do this to get in front of it, in front of the situation, rather than being hanging a kick me sign on your back, is simply saying, "You're damn right. We should soak the rich. Let's start with Harvard, Yale, Columbia, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Disney, every production company in Hollywood, all of the sports teams, okay, and you fill in the rest with your imagination. There's all kinds of left-wing corporations that are filthy rich and that get a pass on taxes. They actually get tax cuts. Hollywood, the state of California gives them tax breaks to keep their productions in-house in California so they don't run away to Canada, which they do anyways. Because they go to Canada or Thailand or Brazil or whatever, then they don't have to pay, number one, they don't got to pay the big minimum wages. Second thing is that they don't have to worry about all the safety rules. That was one of the reasons why about the shooting in New Mexico during a Western movie that was being made in which that actor was, as a matter of fact, I think he's going to go on trial pretty soon, but where there was supposed to be a blank in the gun and he discharged it and killed somebody. And they were in New Mexico because the safety rules were more lax. That's what Hollywood does. Talks a good story about workers and, all that crap. But when it comes right down to it, the very same people that are members of the union, SAG-AFTRA, take their productions like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise goes out and films everywhere but California. So people like that will go out and take their productions all over the world in order to avoid the very laws that they've been championing. So again, take a little time, think of some places. I've just given you a few hints: Harvard, Yale, all of the Ivy League schools. So the next time one of your people at work, you're in the break room and Sammy, socialist, comes in and wants to soak the rich, you say, you're damn right. We should soak the rich. Let's start with Harvard. Here's another one. How about the Los Angeles Times? How about the New York Times? How about the New Republic? How about CNN? How about MSNBC? Soak the rich. Back in a minute. Thank you. A little housekeeping. I wanted to reiterate about 988, which I talked about yesterday. I was with a doctor, and he was telling me about a lot of things, but one of them was he wanted me to make sure that I knew and spread the word about 988, which is a phone number that can be used for people that are thinking of committing suicide. Now, the nice thing that I didn't mention yesterday about 988 is this isn't something like 911 where you call and talk to an operator who then sends out an ambulance, right? So you have all that, the lights and sirens and all that, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that, all that drama. So 988 is direct. You call 988, you get to talk to a professional immediately. So they can immediately start working and helping you to deal with your issues or problems. So, and the doctor reported that he has some patients, and one of them anyways, that has used 988 and found it to be very helpful. So again, if you're thinking about suicide, and this is the United States, nationwide, if you're in other countries, perhaps you have something similar in the UK or Australia, but 988 is the suicide hotline for the United States. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, new book, Gutter Medicine. This is the chapter 1 of Gutter Medicine, 26 Years as a Firefighter/Paramedic by Roger Hutter.
Chapter 1. Firefighter Paramedic. I hear the sirens and air horns now, especially the air horns. Not every time, but sometimes. Suddenly, I am back on the trucks, pulling on my bunker gear, looking up a street on the map, shouldering the straps to my air tank, pulling up my 3/4 boots, putting on my gloves. I am back in it. I am back on the street. I can almost hear the radio traffic. Engine 1, Engine 51, Tower 1, Rescue 1, District 1, house fire. Engine 7, Rescue 7, shooting. OPD is not on the scene. Rescue 1, Rescue Boat 1, respond to assist Engine 7 and Rescue 7 to a drowning. Engine 6, Engine 4, Crash 6, Rescue 6, Tower 1, District 1, plane down. Engine 3, Rescue 3, person not breathing. Engine 10, Tower 10, Rescue 7, District 2, accident with injuries involving entrapment. I can still feel the adrenaline rush, see the red lights of the trucks, hear the roar of the diesel engine. Then dispatch would give the report that always meant you had something serious. We are receiving multiple calls. We have reports of people trapped. CPR is being performed. Then I find myself listening for the reports from the first units to arrive. Engine 1 to dispatch, we have heavy fire showing from a single-story wood frame structure. We are pulling an inch and three-quarter line. Engine 6 to Orlando, we have a single-engine plane down in a tree. No fire, but we do have a fuel leak. Be advised, the passenger and the pilot are trapped. I am back on the street. That place I named so long ago. The other reality that exists just outside most people's everyday lives. It's a place that seems to exist parallel to the normal workaday existence. Yet it's only a car accident or cardiac away for any of us. The street was more than a physical place. It was a place filled with excitement, fear, tragedy, horror, sadness, despair, joy, and laughter. It was a place where routine decisions could have terrible consequences. I'm going to the grocery store. Or, I'll get the wiring fixed next month. Where people died or were maimed. Often it was a terrible place. Or maybe it was reality. It was where all safeguards ended and our job began. The street existed in the poorest homes in Orlando and in the richest. It existed in back alleys and on the main streets. It manifested itself in brush fires, house fires, shootings, stabbings, hangings, cardiacs, codes, drownings, and 1,000 other emergencies. It was everywhere. Certain houses and intersections had been a scene once, and are, to this day, signposts in my life. That house is where I pulled the woman out of the fire that afternoon. When I go to the YMCA, I pass the intersection where all those people died on that Thanksgiving night. I can see where I had the double shooting from the east-west expressway. Each time I get on the interstate, I can see where we tried to save a mother and 3 children that night in that fire. Across the street from those apartments is where we found that body that had been undiscovered for 3 days in the Florida heat. The reminders of the street and the years I spent on it are all around me, like some kind of map of my life. A map that marks life-changing events for me and for those I tried to help. When I remember the street, I always remember it at night, as if that were the only time when bad things would happen to people, and I would have to pick up the pieces. Not just night, but the middle of the night on old Rescue 1. Those early adrenaline-filled nights, where you were wired to every bad thing happening in the city through the radio. That 3 a.m. time, when only the cops, the drunks, and us are prowling around the city in some kind of 3-way dance. The kind of dance that leaves people lying in the gutter bleeding from a head wound, with the stunned, how did this happen look on their faces. But from all those years of nights that formed this one long mashup of memories, one night and one call comes to mind when I think of the street. My partner and I were headed back to the station after the 20th call since our 8 a.m. shift began the previous morning. It had been one of those shifts where none of the calls was serious enough to need our help, just a long line of people falling through the social safety net and using us to solve their small or imagined problems. Just another long shift filled with sick, lame, and lazy people who made me question why I became a paramedic. Where were all the people who needed saving? The world seemed to be made up of drunks and squirrels who think that calling the fire department will solve almost any problem. The drunk we just ran on had been lying in the street with one shoe off, waving his foot at us. "I hurt my foot," he said. The woman who, after careful questioning and a thorough physical exam, admitted that her chief medical complaint was she felt foolish. The drunk being arrested by the cops who cursed at us as we tried to bandage his bleeding head. Every night on Rescue 1, my life seemed to shift into fast forward the moment I stepped on the truck. The fires, shootings, stabbings, assaults, and man-downs came at me so fast, I felt as if I could put my hand out of the window and let it surf through the runs as they rushed past. With each one, I got the same adrenaline shot that I did when it turned out to be life-threatening. Then at some point, during the long night, it would seem as if someone pressed the button on my life and the fast-forward dropped into standard play. I'd realized that the 20 adrenaline rushes left me exhausted and used up. In the Florida heat, my uniform would be damp and sticking to me for hours in the non-air-conditioned truck. I'd lean against the door, feeling as though if I didn't lean against something, I would fall over and go to sleep. My head fuzzy with fatigue, my body throbbing dully with the aches and pains of the constant exertion of nonstop runs. My stomach is trying to eat its way out of my abdomen because all the adrenaline rushes have emptied my tank of anything I ate today or yesterday. My eyes feel as if someone has put sand under them each time I blink. All I want to do in this world is to lie down and go to sleep for just one uninterrupted hour. Just one silent hour. All of this rolled together became the Rescue 1 blues. The only lights are the bronze halogen streetlights whose glow is both eerie and depressing. I'm tired. I hurt. I don't want to do this anymore. But then the radio in the truck blares. Rescue 1, can you take another call? I want to run screaming away from that radio. But I pick up the mic and say, check. Unknown illness to a child, 1492 North Railroad. Rescue 1 responding. I flip on the lights and turn on the siren, and we head for the address. The red box lights reflect off the storefront windows and buildings downtown as we head for the wrong side of things, where we are the doctors to those who don't have the money or insurance for real doctors. Tonight it seems too melodramatic, red lights flashing as the truck rushes through the empty streets. Our experience tells us this is going to be something minor. When we turn onto Lincoln and go under the interstate, it was as if we had entered another reality. One where you could almost taste the hopelessness, the anger, and the frustration of the people who live so close to the money, yet so far away. We find the address. It's a small 2-story apartment building. No lights are on and everything seems locked up tight. We walk across the sandy gray front yard, kicking aside beer bottles and trash. My partner and I climb to the second story on the bare concrete stairs. When we reach the apartment, we stand on either side of the door. You never stand in front of a door. You don't know who is on the other side or what they have in mind. I knock and yell, "Fire department, did someone call?" A young girl opens it immediately. She is in her late teens and a crying baby is in her arms. She has a look of real concern on her face. What seems to be the problem? I ask. He's running a fever and coughing. She hands me the baby. I look down at him as I cradle him in my arms, just as I did my own son at home. The baby is hot to the touch, but not any more than my son was the last time he ran a fever. We examine him and question the mother. It looks as if the worst thing he has is a cold. He's fine. Do you have any Tylenol? It would lower his temperature and make him sleep better tonight. You could take him to the doctor tomorrow. I don't have any Tylenol. Her voice and the look on her face show real fear. I don't have a doctor. The concern and fear in her face lets me know what's happening as much as anything. Here is a young girl all alone with her first child, and no one to go to the drugstore to get the Tylenol, nor a doctor who could see her child. She is out on a limb doing the best she can to take care of her baby by herself. She is out of energy. She needs some help. I look around. The apartment is clean and well furnished. It's obvious she has been doing a good job, no matter what her support system lacks. Look, he's going to be fine. He just needs some Tylenol and some antibiotics. Do you want to go to the hospital with him? What do you think? I think it would be a good idea. We have an ambulance on the way. Do you want to go by ambulance? Yes. Yes, I do. She just needs someone to share the load of being a parent. Not something I thought I would be doing when I went to paramedic school. As I hold her crying baby while she packs her diaper bag, I can feel her relief. She now has the support she needs, no matter that it came in a red rescue truck. She had someone to ask what to do, and they had the means to solve her problem. Though not a big problem in the scheme of things, it was everything to her. When the ambulance arrived that night, we walked her out to the rig and helped her into the back. It was not the type of problem the system was designed to handle, but it was the type of problem we faced daily. No sophisticated medical skills needed here. No special training. It just took a willingness to help. These types of calls would sometimes fill a shift. Back then, they were forgotten as soon as I finished the paperwork. But now, 26 years later, they are the ones that come to mind first when I think of the street. Not the incidents you'll hear about in The Smoking Baby or The Boy Who Went Swimming. Those only return to me through some unrecognized trigger that threw me back into those scenes. The ones full of absolute horror, violence, hopelessness, anger at the system, resentment of the authority you represented, or frightening abdication of personal responsibility for even the most basic human survival skills. No, it's the little cases that come to mind first. The ones I thought I would forget as soon as they were over. Only through years on the street did I realize that maybe these would leave an equally permanent impression. There were so many of them. Maybe this is why this one, the mother and her sick baby, stuck in my memory. Her genuine appreciation for our help was so apparent. The street does give back to you, but it buries it under all the senseless violence, the stupid deaths, the drownings, the shootings, the hangings, the stabbings, the cuttings, the accidents with injuries, the fires, the plane crashes, the drunks, and the crazies. If you're not paying close attention, you lose the little ones. You lose them to the big calls where no matter what you do, everyone will die anyway. You lose them to the mental and physical fatigue that comes with seeing so much. So now I try to hold on to those pure, crystal clear moments of helping, because the big ones are too big to understand so much of the time. I spent 26 years in the fire service. That was over half my life when I retired. What you do in this world shapes you, changes you. On the street, what you see and do changes you in a way that few other professions do. You can experience adrenaline rushes, fear, elation, sadness, all in a single call that is part of a 20-run marathon of life, death, and a lot of in between. It's all rolled up into a single 24-hour shift. Combine the years and decades of those shifts, and you become someone else. Someone you weren't when you started. It is ground into your skin like dirt and grease, and it remains there no matter how many times you wash your hands. I still have the street under my fingernails. If you scratch me, I will bleed a story. I am a firefighter paramedic. Even after years of retirement, it is still who I am. How do you come to a job that shapes you into something you were not before? We all came to the job for different reasons. I came to the job wanting to help people in a very direct and concrete way. No politics or policies between me and those I wanted to help. I found it as a firefighter paramedic, but I didn't understand the price I would pay for doing it. None of us did. We all had to find ways to deal with the job. Some gave up the patches, quit being a paramedic, and went back to strictly firefighting. Others quit the job altogether and just walked away. Others like me stayed through the years. They had their own reasons for staying. I stayed for reasons it took me years to understand. Reasons that were my answers, and no one else's.
And that was the end of Chapter 1, Gutter Medicine, 26 Years as a Firefighter Paramedic by Roger Hutter. Back in a minute. Thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute.
Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next. Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.